All right, great. I would like to call to order the Pickering School Building Committee. Roll call, please.
Perfect. Mayor Nicholson,
Present.
Dr. Alvarez, Mr. Bertino.
Present, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Member Castellanos,
Present.
Ms. Chakutis, Mr. Donovan,
Present.
Ms. Drago, Member Gately. Lorraine, can you hear us?
She's here.
She's here. She's on the video. Yeah.
All right, we'll call that as a yes. Visual confirmation. Ms. Gerardo, Mr. Kolokitis,
Present.
you, Mr. LaPierre.
Present.
I can hear you now.
Thank you, Lorraine. We got you.
I was having
Mr.
a hard time getting through.
Got it. Mr. Makua, Mr. Mannion,
Present.
Mr. Marlin,
Here.
Mayor McGee, Mr. Meany, Ms. Miller, Mr. Ridley,
Yeah.
Mr. Rittershouse,
Present.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Present.
Mr. Smart. Okay, we do have a quorum.
Great. Let's get started.
Jean, would you like to share your screen?
I would be happy to.
Much.
Yeah.
All right, so you can click right on to the next slide, please.
Sure.
All right, so quick run through of the agenda. We'll review last month's meeting minutes. We'll give you a project budget update. Then we'll move on to the exciting stuff. We've got a great design update tonight. RDA has put together some really exciting images that I think everyone will enjoy seeing. And we've got a quick construction update because that date is fast approaching. And then we'll do a permitting update. Then we'll go over the SBC meeting schedule for the coming months, a quick look at the project schedule, and then one last thing is we did receive some comments and questions on the project website with a recommendation that we would like the SBC to consider.
So you need a motion to accept the minutes?
In one moment, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Click to the next slide, please. Perfect. All right.
All right, motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you all. Next slide, please. All right, so for our budget update, this was included in the packet that went out, I think late last night or early this morning. It's included in that monthly report. To date, the project has committed 18% of the full budget. That includes GMP, pre-GMP number one. Of that money, we've expended 5%. We are currently in the 60% construction document phase, and we're estimating we're about 75% of the way through that. This current phase began back in mid-March, and we are targeting completing that and submitting the 60% construction document package to the MSBA July 12th. We'll talk more about that when we get to the the SBC meeting schedule. Any questions about the project budget? Jean, next, thank you. So here's our cash flow. Previously, we had projected that by now we would have spent just under $10.5 million. The actual figure that has been spent is let's say 8.8 million. So that there's a difference there, of course. And so that difference is explained by when we thought construction was going to start was back in May, and when it's actually going to start is in June. And so there's a little bit of gap, but as we proceed through construction, that gap will pretty quickly close. And I see, Mr. Marlowe's got a question?
Well, it's, so not on this, I'm assuming, Mr. Mayor, I'm assuming you saw that my boss is on the Arlington School Building Committee. And so he actually he informed me of that story about what happened there. So obviously, I'm assuming you saw it and all kinds of red flags are out there. So I just wanted to raise it as obviously an area of concern because it seems every time I read the paper, there's some other city or town that's getting hit for something. So that was it. I just wanted to make sure I knew you would be, but I just want to make sure we're all aware and being quite careful as to who we're sending these checks to.
No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, Rich, and I think is Mr. Patino on the call right now?
I don't think
Anyway,
so.
he could tell you that as a CFO, he oversees the IT function as well as, payments. And this is a huge priority for us. We actually have transitioned to a new IT vendor to help us stay on top of the cybersecurity threat. And it is something that Michael and his team preach, daily. A lot of this is about making sure that every single person on the team is aware and takes it seriously, and people check in each other and hold one another accountable. It's an ever-present risk, and unfortunately, um, local governments are frequently targeted, and we've seen that not just in Arlington, but really all over the country. So I did see what happened there, and extremely unfortunate. And we did something we talked about, and and not only that, but we really have an ongoing program to try to combat this. Again, it's always there as a threat, and it's always something we need to be vigilant about. So, thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions about the budget? All right, hearing none, I'd like to turn things over to Gene, who's going to take us through the design update.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, feel like we keep doing designer updates and we're just moving plans around or talking about the site plan. So, big picture, we've fully designed the site and, that's gone out for pricing with Consigli. We've also, now that we've stopped moving rooms around, fully designed the foundations and the superstructure, which is, the steel frame, and that's gone out for pricing with Consigli. So we are now focusing on kind of the fun stuff, right? How are we what's this building gonna look like? And I just wanted to run through some big picture stuff that we always have to deal with on every project. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's actually kind of fun. But we have the floor plan. How are we going to visually organize it? So I just thought I'd run through some, I'm going to call them preliminary images. They're not like all tricked out with the exact materials, but just kind of the concept of how we want to organize the design of the building inside and outside. So what you're looking at here is the little floor plans for the all 5 levels. And on the lower left is the entry level, the first floor facing Magnolia Park. Then you go up 1 level and that's the second floor. And then the academic, I'm calling them the academic floors. Everything's academic, but the third floor is the 6th grade, and the 4th floor is the 7th grade, and the 5th floor, the top floor, is for 8th grade. And if you remember, we're on a very, very compact site, and we have, we're kind of treating this thing like a Swiss watch, in that we've kind of jammed everything in there. We have all the main teaching areas are on the perimeter right? With natural light, windows, nice tall ceilings. Um, but we have other spaces we have to accommodate, and those are all on the interior. And, you know, I'm pointing at the third floor. Um, you'll see that we have kind of a toilet and core that's colored here in blue, and it occurs on every floor plan. And then we have some what we're calling extended learning space, and I'll kind of go into that, you know, in depth later. We have some learning centers. We have some, you know, special education offices, kind of in interior spaces. And what I will say about that is all these extended learning spaces are focused around a couple of team clusters, you know, of 4 classrooms each: science, English, social studies, and English language. Um, but we have skylights that come down through the first 3 floors. So in these interior spaces here that are really learning spaces and they're opened up to the classrooms, there will be natural light in here. And then you know, if you've been in Thurgood Marshall, you'll notice, you may know that the stairwells have very tall doors, and the doors are always open unless there's a security issue or a fire alarm, in which they automatically close. So we'll have, you know, on this 4th floor, you know, kind of typically we'll have a lot of natural light spilling in here, and we'll have a skylight over here. So this is going to be, you know, these are going to be nice spaces in here. And then we have other things like, you know, kind of overseeing the elevators and the toilet cores. We have an assistant principal office. We have a teacher workroom with glass, so that there's always kind of eyes on what's going on out there. But again, we kind of have these core spaces that have some support spaces in them. And what we're always trying to do is take these big floor plans and break them down into smaller pieces so people can orient themselves as they're moving through the school. So what we've kind of landed on, as we did at Thurgood Marshall, but in a different way, is trying to give each of these areas, except for the toilet core, you know, its own kind of color palette. So, you know, when you're down here, you know, you're in the teal zone. And when you're down here, you're in the orange zone. And so as you're kind of navigating around the building, you know, the colors are going to help you understand where you are. And maybe you know, there's 2 teams for the 6th, and 2 teams, you know, in this area, 1 and 2. Then there's a 3rd team over here. So maybe each team, same thing happens on the upper floors, has its own kind of color that identifies, you know, its area. So I'll show you images, but I just wanted to talk to you about, like, the whole idea is to try to break this down, and kind of provide some wayfinding clues, you know, and some identity for these various teams of teachers and students. The first 2 floors are kind of more, I'm going to say certainly the first floor is public. You know, you have the gym, you have the cafeteria, you have the black box theater, a couple music rooms, you have that learning stair, and all the health, the nurse, community health, and you know, admin. So and because the lobby is 2 stories high, you know, the first floor, there's a floor opening. We thought we'd treat, you know, this center core of the first 2 floors with its own kind of identification. Now, when, you know, that's kind of easy to look at a floor plan and say, oh, okay, this is the yellow corridor, or the pink corridor. What we also want to do is try to break up the ceilings. So there's a ton of acoustic ceiling tiles, and we don't want this just to be one big long corridor. We want to have like a destination at the end and kind of make it, I don't know, special, right? This is kind of for lack of a better word, you know, the living room for these two teams, where learning is happening. So we're looking at special ceilings, you know, in these areas where there is extended learning. And it's going to do a couple things. It's going to highlight this area as an important area, but it's also going to break up what otherwise would just be a long, kind of boring corridor. And when you're moving through a building, you're not looking at the plan, you're looking at the space. So you're seeing the floor, you're seeing the walls, and you're seeing the ceiling. So that's the kind of stuff we're thinking about. This is a blow up. Well, I don't know. I could stop if anyone has any questions, or just keep going. Craig, just yell out if someone raises their hands, because I'm not looking at the screens.
Will do. Actually, Member Gately has her hand up.
Oh, hey.
Can
Hi,
you
Lorraine.
point out where the locker room is?
Yes, actually, I can do it right here. So this is the first floor plan. You come in the two-story high lobby with a skylight. You go down the corridor, you know, the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and right over in here is the drama and black box. But right over here is a male and a female locker room. There's also private changing rooms. Lorraine, I don't know if you can see those, but they're right adjacent to the gymnasium, and they're across the hallway from the big toilet rooms.
Jean, why is it the gym is abutting the black box and not the locker room?
The black box needs a big chunk of space, Lorraine. And this 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 is the better place for it because there's more room here. But also the black box needs two ways out because there's going to be more than 50 people. And one way is to go out in the corridor, but we need to have a second access, which is provided by this stair. And then the third thing is there's going to be performances in the black box, but there's also the gymnasium is really going to kind of double as your auditorium space, you know, for lack of a better word. So they both are going to have audio visual controls, and we're able to put a control room, a single room that can cover the black box and cover the gymnasium. So I know you're thinking this is down the hall, but it's the same thing in Thurgood Marshall where it was across the hall from the gym. You know, it didn't directly abut the gym, and it's really not too far.
Okay. The other question is, I just have to make sure that on the level where the second floor is there an exit? Where would I see the exit onto the back doors on that?
Oh,
So if there was a fire drill, people from the 5 to 3 can get out on, like, along where the Sisson parking lot is.
yep.
I need to see that.
That's okay. So there's a stairwell here, Lorraine, that covers all 5 floors. So that the 3 floors above can come down this stairwell. And they can't come here because these doors will be automatically shut. So they just push through this way, and then they go down this corridor out into the Sisson parking lot.
Okay. All right. So we have plenty of exits for people to get out of that building.
Yep. And the other
Okay.
the other thing is that the life skills and the coach classrooms, remember that was kind of an issue at Thurgood Marshall during a fire alarm. So they're on the same level and they can go out this rear exit.
All right. Thank you, Jean. You know me, I'm a worrywart about the safety. That's all.
No, I know. Well, you know, you brought that up before, and you know, we take it seriously and try to make sure we address it, which I think we did. But
I did.
I remember you bringing both those issues up before.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So anyway, what we're thinking about is treating this as maybe, I don't know, think of it as a mass or a cube or something that's got a certain color to it. And when you come into the lobby, again, it's a 2-story high space. So Um, we don't know if this might be, I'm gonna say wood paneling, but you know, that's probably not, you know, what it's gonna be. Some sort of tile, something, but when you come in the front door, you know, you're gonna have the music classrooms, you're gonna have other classrooms that are up on the second floor, and they're gonna be looking out into the space, and there's a big skylight, so they're gonna capture, you know, natural light through these nice windows. But what we're thinking about is treating this whole thing with some sort of material, some sort of color, right? You know, so you're kind of in this zone here, looking at both floors, and really treating this as kind of a feature wall or a wow, or you know, whatever it is, but kind of setting the tone for the new school. And when you're up on the second floor corridor, right, it's kind of like a gallery looking down over, you know, this learning space. But you know, you can see the 2 stories. And we have this again, a pretty big natural light source up in this skylight. And if you kind of came around this corner, you know, over where I'm shaking my cursor, now we're looking down into the first floor, and the music classrooms are there and the upper classrooms are here. And you can see kind of, we want to take this, whatever this feature is going to be, whether it's paint, tile, some sort of special material, and we want to wrap it so that this thing looks like it's a mass that's kind of set within the rest of the building. So we're just, you know, for lack of a better word, just, you know, this is kind of anchoring the public spaces when you enter the building. And as we go forward, obviously, we will be thinking a lot about the interiors and materials. And that's kind of what happens when you go from, you know, 50% to 100% as far as the design goes. Lorraine, it looks like you have your hand up again, but I don't know if
I
that's
do.
cool.
I have another question. Is
Yeah.
Kevin Rittenhouse on the call?
Yes.
Kevin, what's our school colors? What was Pickering's blue and white, or
Blue and white.
just so you know that, Gene, the school colors are blue and white. And the
Um,
mascot is
Tigers.
a tiger.
Yeah.
Just so you know that, because the color scheme should be, you know, like around those colors, and Kevin can give you more an update at another time if he wants.
Yeah, no, that's great. So Kevin, you and I are going to be talking a lot over the next couple months, I hope. So now that, you know, if you're not trying to run the school, maybe we can get into some of the weeds on this stuff.
Anytime.
Thank you,
But
Gene.
yeah, so I just think when you come in, I think if we can treat this wall, you know, maybe it's blue and white, maybe it's got tiger graphics, you know, whatever it is, but that's the kind of stuff that I think this is the first thing you're gonna see when you come in. So I put some pictures in here of Thurgood Marshall, right? Because, you know, this looks kind of primitive and, you know, oh, you know, what all I kind of wanted to say is, you know, there's a long way to go from 50% to 100%, and there's a ton of detail that gets taken into account between the colors and materials and all that stuff. But we want to have an impactful lobby, right? Um, this is a classroom at Thurgood Marshall that looks out into that lobby, right? This one happens to have some windows on the outside wall, but the idea is some of those classrooms at Pickering are going to have, you know, windows looking into the lobby and kind of capturing natural light and views, so they don't feel like they're just little caves, right? You want to have some feeling of expanse and view. So that's, you know, that's what we're going to strive to do. And then off that public, you know, we want to show you next month, you know, our thoughts on the cafetorium and the gym. But again, I just, some of these things, when they're kind of idea driven or theme driven, you know, they're not really tricked out. And I just want you guys to know that you're gonna end up with quality stuff, kind of like what you have at Thurgood Marshall. So then I'm gonna take you through like the 5th floor, which is the 8th grade floor, just as an example. And I wanna kind of explain how the building's organized. There are 3 teams, you know, of 4 teachers each. There's kind of one in here anchored by a science lab, and there's one up here anchored by a science lab. And well, not they all, but most of the classrooms, we're trying to open the teams up to this big area in the corridor and take advantage of not only this space, but the corridor space for morning meetings or big group activities. So there's a couple teams here. And then this thing is what, you know, everyone in the, I don't know, educational world is just calling extended learning space. It's not learning space that's in the classroom. It's the classroom extending out into the corridor and trying to take advantage of all the square footage. But each grade level has 3 teams. So there's 1, 2, and there's another one down here, which is anchored by a science lab, and then 3 other classrooms. So there's another skylight here, and then there's this corridor, you know, this is square footage that was in the program, but it really can take advantage of all this corridor square footage as well. And you know, maybe these teams identify with the green mass and these teams identify with the purple mass. And like I say, the toilet core is the toilet core. But, you know, you kind of can get a sense where you are just by what you're seeing as you walk through. But it's not just floor plans and it's not just walls. I don't know the right extent, but we're showing like special ceilings, you know, wrapping this extended learning space. And I'll show you pictures, you know, in both areas. And then kind of normal ceilings the rest of the way. And what we did at Thurgood Marshall is you had 1,100 kids. We broke it down into what are called, you know, small learning communities, right? So we have 9 at Pickering. So maybe it's 125 kids or 110 kids, whatever the math is, that really spend their time kind of in one area with one group of teachers. And this is an example of how we at Thurgood Marshall, we gave each one of these clusters or small learning communities its own individual kind of color, right? And this one, it was really just kind of a straight on corridor. And we had some internal meeting spaces, but well, anyway, and then, you know, that happened to be like the orange cluster, and then there was a yellow cluster, and then the yellow cluster kind of came into the classrooms. So, you know, it was really kind of color identity. And what we're thinking about for Pickering, you know, like here's coming down a hallway into one of these small learning communities. And, you know, maybe this is that green mass that I showed you on the interior, and the lockers are kind of green. And then maybe the other lockers on the other side are more a neutral color. But what I wanted to do was kind of make sure there's some event at the end of the hallway. And again, I don't know the extent or the exact material, but, you know, some idea of treating these extended learning spaces as, you know, maybe special areas, and, you know, something that these 2 teams can, I don't know, kind of claim as their own and kind of, you know, take on. And, you know, here's an example. Maybe you're looking down the hallway where that purple mass is, but at the end, this is all day lit and maybe it's some other material. We're kind of showing, you know, acoustic panels that are made out of wood, and whether that's the right or wrong choice, you know, we're just trying to ferret out, you know, the ideas and the concepts. And one of the things that kind of inspired this was Laura and Kevin and I and Steve, our designer, you know, we went out, we looked at a couple of other middle schools. This happens to be the Gates Middle School in Situate. And this is an example where there's a team, and they kind of have this barn door that goes into the wall. But this is that hallway space, and you can kind of see they got a hallway on this side and a hallway on that side, which is what happens at Pickering. And they have stuff happening in the interior. So this is, you know, what they were calling an extended learning space, and there's teaching materials. This door can open and the classroom can spill out into this space for group activities. There's windows, maybe this is a learning, teacher planning room or a learning center. And, you know, we have windows so that we're bringing in, this is a floor opening with natural light coming in from a skylight. And this is another view that kind of more clearly shows, you know, the interior space, the idea of having natural light coming down into the middle of the building, and then just real flexible learning space, maybe even with like some kind of nooks and things like that. So kind of using that as a model. You know, this is something, I don't know, we're kind of thinking about, I'll say, or trying to develop, which is making sure we have that light well that I showed. And then if we are going to do kind of color coding and break down these masses into different colors, again, that's the kind of the toilet core in blue. Maybe it's a different color now, but you know, maybe this is the green end of the building, and it shows up in the floor and the soffit, and maybe there's some special ceiling. We have shown, and it's in the budget, you know, barn doors that most of the time probably would be closed. But if there's a big group activity or some, you know, some way to take advantage of it, you know, that could be opened and the classroom can spill out into this kind of flexible learning space. Each team would have a display case. And if you kind of look the other way, this team would have a display case and they have a barn door. So really, it just provides a lot of flexibility in the lessons or group activities that you might be able to run. Maybe there's a pipe grid. Right now we're showing a pipe grid with electrical reels. We have a closet, you know, with a sink that's behind a door. But, you know, if there's an activity that needs water and takes place here, or there's like a physics thing going on, you can hang stuff off the grid, you can get water, and, you know, really make use of this for various curricula. Then this is just an example, you know, at the other end of the building, maybe this is the purple area. The same thing happens with a light well and just flexible furnishings. This is all movable stuff, and it's all kind of wide open, and it's using the corridors for learning.
Gene, there's a question or a comment?
Yeah. Brian?
Thank you. And thank you, Gene, for this great presentation. I'm looking at some of the extending learning in space. I probably know the answer to this, but can you confirm that while we do this, we're not sacrificing actual classroom space, that there's ample classrooms as well that is going to hold the capacity of the school, that we aren't, so to speak, going to get in there and have these classrooms be overburdened, and some of the extending learning spaces become classrooms as a result?
Well, you can use this space for whatever you want, but to answer your question, yes, there are enough classrooms based on the population of the school. I know, you know, Thurgood Marshall kind of ballooned from 1,100 to 14.
Right. That's my worry. The oversubscription once it opens, you know, and that's what we're facing there with Marshall. So,
yeah,
I just want to be cognizant of that. It's beautiful and the layout's perfect, but, you know, that again, we're not sacrificing an extended space for a classroom.
Yeah, you're actually not. This purple area here, for instance, is the only square footage that was, you know, kind of MSBA program square footage. That all this space here around the perimeter is just corridor square footage. So you can kind of take advantage of the corridor and just make the space feels bigger. but really it's just this purple that's counted toward your educational program with MSBA, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Gene.
And again, we're showing this like it's really fancy and it's all wood and blah, blah, blah. But that's why I just want to say we're trying to conceptualize how we're going to break this up. And, I don't want everyone to think, oh my God, this is, super expensive and it's crazy and all that stuff. So just think of these as kind of organizational, thoughts, if you don't mind.
Jean,
go ahead.
Lorraine's got a question?
Yep.
So can we go back to those spaces? Because Brian brought up a very good point. I think we need to know how many classrooms we're going to have. Kevin, again, I'm going to bother you for this, to make sure that there's enough classrooms to hold 1,100 students. Also, this would be a great space for project-based learning, so that if the whole cluster was working on something or a makerspace, they could
Right.
use that as makerspace. They could use that as project-based learning. But I just want to make sure that the capacity of the school, so they're not overburdened, like Brian brought up, the classrooms there will be enough classrooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I want to try to make sure you are comfortable.
Like the team, right? You have like 5 classrooms with that team. And I would think, from my experience as a secondary educator in Pickering Middle School, that we would have 4 major subjects and a minor subject, and that would be 5. Am I correct there, Kevin?
So each team would be the 4 content areas.
Yeah.
Yep.
And within that floor, you would probably have spaces for 5th major classes and electives.
Yep.
But to Brian's point, and Gene, maybe I'm conceptualizing this the wrong way, but if you look at that green area on the top left, basically what Gene has done, it looks to me anyway, is taking, quote, dead space and made it into a workable area. And I agree that this would be great for project-based learning. This is not, to me, it doesn't look like it would minimize classroom size, because the classrooms have already been built based on the calculation of expected student enrollment.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of flipped to this floor plan because from here over is one team and from here over is another. And then Lorraine down in this and Brian down in this lower corner, there's another team of 4 classrooms. So all these other classrooms around the perimeter here are either 5th majors or intellectually impaired. So there's, really the academic teams are kind of where these circles are, and everything else is available. It happened to be assigned to 5th majors and other subjects. But and then on each floor, yeah, go ahead.
The
Lauren.
question I have is, Kevin, when we expand it, we're going to expand the amount of students. So right now, every cluster has 2, like 2 groups, 2 teams. Like my 8th grade cluster and Jill Joyce's, we're in 2 different clusters, but I'm going to think there's going to be, for 8th grade, there's going to be 4 clusters. Is
No,
that
there's
what we're
going
going
to
to
be
do?
3 clusters in each grade.
All right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jean. I was just making sure.
Oh, believe me, don't worry about it. But there is a lot of, they all have assignments in the educational program, but there are a lot of other classrooms that are not just cluster-based classrooms.
We went over all these numbers before we even started. I recall now. I'm remembering.
So, so we're trying to organize it around colors, and this is something that Thurgood Marshall doesn't have, and it's really something that's kind of come to the fore in educational planning, since that was constructed. but the idea of trying to make use of the corridor space and provide some common group space for various teams. So anyway, that's I think it's on the right track. And like I say, I don't want people to think, oh, you're doing crazy, cherry ceilings or something like that. We're just trying to like get the concepts down. And I think kind of giving various teams their own kind of color and their own kind of common area, I think will really help the sense of small learning community, for the students. You're really breaking this big school down into smaller pieces. So on the third and fourth level, it's kind of the same setup. Let's say there's 2 teams for 7th grade here around this an extended learning space, and another team down here. We happen to have the art suite here, and we have, of course, the toilet suite, and then some of the support spaces, including faculty rooms. Down on the 3rd floor.
Gene, sorry to interrupt. Peter's got a
Oh,
question.
yeah, Peter, hey.
Hi, Gene. Thank you. Great presentation. Really appreciate the visuals. I just want to ask one quick question. Earlier in the call, you had mentioned about where the cluster is or what floor the special needs program was going to be at. And I thought you mentioned also life skills. From what
Yes.
I understand, life skills requires, at least at Thurgood Marshall, the life skills classrooms have a couple other accommodations, like a little kitchen, because that's part of the life skills program.
Yep.
Did you account for that under this particular?
We did. The life skills classroom has a kitchen in it. And then like Thurgood Marshall, it has a separate smaller room with a washer and dryer.
Okay. Yep.
And storage. But
yeah, I just want to make sure, because I don't believe, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, the current Pickering older building does not have a life skills program. And if this was modeling the Pickering, that I just want to make sure that that little kitchen and or washer dryer hookup was present.
Yeah, I guess I'd say in general, it's modeling Thurgood Marshall, right? You're trying to.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
There's not much to model at Pickering.
No, not at all.
Don't take it the wrong way, Kevin.
No, not at all. But
don't.
just that I heard you say, and life skills. That was just want to make sure that those additional accommodations were
We're going to
accommodated.
bring in the life skills program to the new Pickering because we don't have it right now.
Correct. Yep. 10-4. Thank you.
Great. So on the 3rd floor, we've been talking about these movement studios, and we have this outdoor learning deck as an alternate in the budget right now, which these could open up to if it gets funded. Then we have the media center and a couple of classrooms, a computer classroom and another kind of maker space. But as we went through the programming with the superintendent and Kevin and his folks, a ways back before we kind of finalized what the layout was going to be. These are going to be kind of, maybe not a traditional library, but more, kind of maker and project-based learning spaces, right? And, there will be, we can have some books on movable bookcases. This is a snapshot of what's going on at Thurgood Marshall. And at Thurgood Marshall, we had kind of one of these rooms that was used for project-based learning, and it had kind of some views out to the corridor. I think what we're talking about here is bigger spaces with natural light and maybe some of these partitions so that activities can flow into a small room or kind of maybe combine into part of the big room. But these are just all very flexible spaces. And that's why sometimes we're showing, maybe some bookshelves or some sort of storage in the extended learning space, because maybe this isn't a traditional library stuffed with books, and maybe some of the books are here, but maybe some are distributed, like, the 6th graders might have some certain materials that are kind of more geared toward their curriculum, and maybe they're housed somewhere in this common area. So and then, oh, I just wanted, yeah, I'm sorry, I keep flipping back and forth. But so we have kind of maker activities going here, and then this is perfect in the interior with no windows. We have the AV TV studio and the editing lab. And with the lab, we'll have some windows that look out into the hallway and capture some light from the media center. But the idea is to have real nice spaces. This happens to be the AV TV studio at Thurgood Marshall. So this is kind of what you can expect, not surface for surface or material for material, but this is the quality of what you can expect at Pickering. So just on the outside, it's kind of the same thing where we start out with how are we going to organize the building. And this is going back to design development. We knew we were going to put break the big building up into different pieces. We had the top 2 floor levels with one material. We had a band of glass. This happens to be where the media center is, so it can overlook out to the pond in the background. And then, kind of the public areas on the first 2 floors. This happens to be the cafeteria, and this is the main entrance. So, we're thinking about how to break up the interior, how to break up the outside. But to be honest, this is kind of just like, hey, we need windows here and let's put an opening. But it's kind of whatever. I don't know, kind of boring. So I'll just run through, we have all these windows, and they're all where they need to be, and they're all the size they need to be. But they're just what we call punched openings, right? Everything's brick, and we have an opening in the brick and an opening in the brick. They're just kind of punched through the wall. We do have some windows on those movement studios and media center, because those are important spaces or kind of special spaces. And that, hopefully we can fund that learning deck. So, the movement studio can spill out and outdoor things can happen. But this over on the right side is kind of putting the height of the new Pickering in perspective. The Sisson is 2 stories, and then it has a 1-story kind of classroom thing happening at the end. And it happened to align pretty well with the bottom course. This darker brick is 2 stories facing Magnolia, but as you go up the hill, it's 1 story. And so you kind of, we're starting, kind of got a line going here that's relating to Sisson. I know it's subtle, but it's kind of, something that might be unconscious. And then where we had the glass at the media center and movement studio, we thought we'd do a different color brick. In this case, we just showed white, right? So that it's kind of like a layer cake. We have the top, the middle, and the bottom. But again, I don't know, it works. The windows are there, etc. They're where they need to be, and they're the size they need to be for the energy efficiency. But what we want to do is make it more interesting, right? So all these windows are in the same place as what I just showed you. But what we've done is we've started to pull some of the light colored brick up into the upper 2 stories. And we've started to modulate. Some of the piers are wide and some are small. And, that maybe this is a different color brick that wasn't there before, but it allows us to have these kind of features. And when you look at the back of the building, again, it's the same. The windows are the same exact place, but instead of just these punched openings in a brick wall, you're starting to tie together the 3 academic floors. You're starting to get some horizontal movement. It looks like things are kind of moving, and it just has a lot more interest. So everything is still brick. So it's durable, and it's, the least expensive, which is a little counterintuitive, but, facing material. But the building is starting to look a lot more kind of homogeneous. Things are being pulled up between the levels, and it's frankly starting to look a lot more interesting. So this is what Consigli is pricing at the moment. You know, again, it's always been all brick, but now maybe, I don't know, you know, now they know, oh, okay, the mason has to do this color and then he has to do this color and then this color. So, you know, it's a little bit different than what we were showing before, and it's all getting kind of priced up.
Gene, I
So,
have a quick question about the windows.
sure.
Do they open?
They will not open, Lorraine. At the, so when we did Thurgood Marshall, we had that conversation. And I think the thought was that we're fully air conditioning the building and, you know, just opening the windows, you're either throwing dollars out, you know, out of the building, right, by heating or cooling the outside, or, you know, making the control systems a little more complicated to keep steady temperatures. So Thurgood Marshall doesn't have any opening windows, and neither does this one.
Would it, coming from experience of past buildings that, like, as you go down a road like 10 years, it's like, and the air conditioning breaks and you can't get any fresh air into there, that bothers me. I don't know. I want to talk to, is Mike Donovan there? Mike?
Yeah, I'm here, Lorraine. Yes.
So Mike, have we had any problems with Marshall on the windows not opening and the air conditioning, sort of like we're having problems at Classical right now?
No, the classical issue was a catastrophic failure of the air conditioning system. The whole chiller went down, and it's, you know, we're already at 60 weeks out and we still haven't got the replacement. We have a replacement chiller on a trailer. We have fixed windows at Thurgood. We have fixed windows at the police station, and it helps us maintain the interior environment a lot more reasonably than have windows open. I mean, it's
Okay.
If we had windows open, we wouldn't have on the first floor to open either because of security reasons. So, and then we come into screens if we have opening windows that open. So where we've gone in every new building we've done is fixed windows with no opening.
And there are no problems with it?
No, ma'am, no.
Okay, and you know where I'm coming from. I know you know where I'm coming from, so.
Classical's
All
been
right.
uncomfortable. Yes, it has.
Thank you. Bye.
So Craig and everybody, that's kind of where we are in our process right now. And you know, I will say we're starting to get, you know, it's kind of the fun stuff. We're starting to get excited about it. And I think it's coming a long way.
It
Definitely.
looks
Thank you.
beautiful.
I think it's gonna be pretty good, Lorraine. It's gonna be pretty. So I'm happy to go, you know, go on to your next slide if you want.
Yes, please. Thank you, Gene.
Yeah.
So here's another snapshot update of the process through permitting. All of the gray items on top are ones that we presented, are actions that were presented at last month's meeting, so we won't belabor those. The ones in blue are updates. So the MEPA SEIR single engineering impact report was published in the Environmental Monitor on May 22nd. That's a necessary step. The design team has been preparing a supplemental package for that MEPA submission, also another necessary step. That will be submitted to MEPA on June 14th, this Friday. With all that, we're anticipating to have the MEPA certificate by June 30th, which would conclude the MEPA process. When it comes to sort of the next section, this is more procurement and construction. So the early bid package number 1, which was represented in pre-GMP number 1, Gene was mentioning earlier, is that site work package that was executed on May 28th, and the values there are reflected in the budget update we gave earlier. The next one coming down the road is early bid package number 2. Also, as Gene was mentioning, that's pre-GMP number 2, foundations and superstructure. Consigli has assembled that and delivered that to the rest of the project team this past Monday. So we're going through that now. The next step will be to get that approved, and then those monies will appear in the budget updates. Bid package or pre-GMP number 2 is larger. That's it's just over 20 million. I want to say it's almost $21 million package. Construction, they're mobilizing. Consigli is planning to mobilize to the site June 24th, so that the neighborhood and you all will start to see that perimeter construction fence going up, trailers being delivered, equipment being delivered, with the anticipation that the week of July 1st will be when actual site work begins. Next slide, Gene. Any questions about those dates or activities before we move on? None. I'll turn this over to Consigli. Brandon, do you want to walk everyone through this?
Yeah, so Craig, you touched on it a little bit here, but as we said, bid package number 1 is all executed. Subcontractors are on board. So this is our site work bid package. Submittals are ongoing, which means we are preparing all the documents with the design team, getting materials approved, and doing our due diligence with material delivery tracking, basically get ourselves set up to be on site and installing things per the schedule. And then we're tracking that 6/24 mobilization date. Like Craig mentioned, you'll start to see the construction fence go up, start setting up our temporary laydown type areas, temporary toilets. Trailers will come in a couple of weeks after that for our temporary offices. And then the week of the 1st is where we hope you'll see some actual construction progress, buckets in the ground with the site work sub to start working on the area behind the Sisson School with that retaining wall.
Thank you. Any questions about that? Hearing none. Gene, you can go to the next slide, please.
Okay, yep.
Upcoming meetings and recently past meetings. So we had a neighborhood meeting, something the mayor's office suggested, and was a successful event. That was back on May 28th. The video of that is now on our YouTube channel. Construction start June 24th. NEPA process complete June 30th. Our next SBC meeting, we're proposing it be on July 10th, which is actually a week earlier than it normally would be. The reason why we're asking for it to be a week earlier is because we want you all to see and vote on the 60% CD submission to the MSBA, which we're hoping to submit on July 12th, just to keep things moving. Then August is the normal date, September is the normal date, October is the normal date. At that October meeting, flashing forward several months, we're aiming to have our 90% CD submission presented to you all and voted on so that we can submit it to the MSBA October 18th. And then, our regular meetings for the remainder of the year and beginning next year. If there's a need for a special meeting, either to react to something quickly or to get a vote from you, we'll of course reach out over email, coordinate that, make sure we can get a quorum together. Any questions about the upcoming SBC meetings? Gene, next slide, please. Here's a quick peek at our overall project schedule. This hasn't changed since the last time we presented it, except we've moved that red line over by a month. You can see it's very teeny tiny on the screen, but that green bar that represents the design work. We're at the very end of that 60% CD process and just about to cross over to the 90% CD process. As we mentioned earlier, now that the package is out, Consigli is going to start pricing it, and we'll consider this phase, the 60% CD phase, complete once we submit to the MSBA. So that's coming right up. Any questions about the overall project schedule? Gene, next slide, please. So we do have on our project website, we do have a contact us button. Those, whenever someone clicks on that and sends a message, that comes to left field first, and then we distribute it around, whether it's a comment, question, concern, we distribute it to who we think can best respond to it. This one came in, it is a message from someone in the community. They were wondering about building a pond and planting trees on site relative to sort of a wildlife asset, supporting the ecosystem. So this was significant enough that we thought we would bring it to this group to consider. I think, at this point, from our project management perspective, at this point, we do not recommend adding large features to the project, either to the site or the building itself, but did want to bring this to everyone's attention so it could be discussed.
Thank you for letting us know, Craig.
All right, and then in the future,
Can I
as
just
other items
input
come
on
up,
this, on the geese problem on this? I find in my personal experience here in Lynn that the geese have plenty of room on Flax Pond. They're all over the golf course, and they just find another place to go that has water. So I don't think it's going to be a problem here in Lynn, personally. Anybody else agree with me?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, Lorraine. I appreciate that. Thank you, Craig.
Agree, Lorraine.
all right. That brings us to the end. Gene, you can click to the next slide. As always, we'll put the videos up there on our project website and YouTube channel. Any closing thoughts, comments?
Yeah, and so on the scheduling point, I'm just going to add that we are the site prep work, starts June 24th. We're planning to do a formal groundbreaking ceremony in the fall, and we will certainly let you all know when we have a date. But we were hoping to incorporate some students in that, maybe potentially. So we figured we'd do it when folks were back in school. So when we have a date, we will certainly let everybody know. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. These are exciting updates. It's looking amazing. And as always, we appreciate everyone's input and all the work that's going into keeping us moving along on this, really exciting project. So thank you, everyone.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait to see it started.
So if there's
can't
nothing
either.
else, just seeking a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All right, go
Yep.
Celtics.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.